Back here on CBS Sports HQ as we continue to follow NBA free agency. Go get it, young fella. Clint Capela headed back to Houston on a 3-year, $21.5 million deal. That's according to an ESPN report. Capela spent the first 6 years of his career in Houston before being traded to Atlanta in 2020. Capela averaged 9 points, 8.5 rebounds per game last season, but lost his starting spot late in the year. Back here with Sam Quinn, John Gonzalez, and Tim Doyle. And how about Houston here, Sam, going all in? What do you make of the latest deal to get Clint Capela, a 3-year, $21.5 million deal?
Yeah, this is the most surprising deal of the night so far, right? Didn't Houston just re-sign Steven Adams for $39 million over 3 years? They still have Alperen Şengün. They just re-signed Jabari Smith to a 5-year, $122 million deal last night. They have a lot of people who are either explicitly centers or can play some center, and you probably would want to experiment with that moving forward. The Rockets do use a lot of two big lineups. They gave the Warriors fits in that first-round series when they put Şengün and Adams on the court together. You can't play two bigs for 48 minutes. So I have some real questions here. Is there another move coming? From a cap perspective, there basically has to be, right? They can't fit both Clint Capela and Dorian Finney-Smith into their non-taxpayer mid-level exception. One of these is going to have to be structured as a sign-and trade. I'm going to be very interested to see who Houston is sending out to make the money work on this. But on paper, 3 centers for the Rockets. I'm stunned.
John, are you also puzzled by this move?
Yes, extremely. I saw this and went, wait, what? What is happening here? It doesn't make any sense to me for all the reasons that Sam just outlined here. I mean, they brought back Steven Adams. They ran that double big lineup to some success during the regular season and then in the postseason. But as Sam mentioned, you're not going to run a double big for 48 minutes. They've got a glut of players at the front court. There has to be something that we're missing here. There's got to be a next move. And then also from Clint Capela's perspective, there had to be a better opportunity. I mean, you know, go get your money, right? $21 million. Who's throwing that at Clint Capela? The Hawks couldn't wait to get off of Clint Capela's money. They were trying to trade him for the last couple of years. There were no takers out there for Clint Capela. They couldn't wait to move on to Onyeka Okongwu. And then here comes the Houston Rockets with Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün and who else am I? Jabari Smith, who can also play some center. And they decided to bring in Clint Capela too. I mean, I would have expected if I'm Clint Capela, opportunity-wise, one of the 2 LA teams would have been a better situation for me than this logjam that they have at center. So yeah, look, everything that the Rockets have done up until this point, I've been on board with. I thought was really smart. I think makes them a contender. But there's something here that we haven't figured out yet, so there's got to be another shoe to drop.
Right, some more pieces to fall. So what I have learned, Akeem, is that if I was in school with Sam, I would let him sit in front of me, and I would look over his shoulder if I could. If I could peer over that shoulder, I'd be looking right at his Scantron and copying his answers right onto my math test, okay? Because you know the guy knows his numbers.
He does. He knows his numbers. I'm just curious if the numbers are going to work out to competing in the Western Conference. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right, John? I mean, you bring these guys in. Does it work for one season? You have Kevin Durant. He's, of course, going to be ball dominant. You bring all these pieces in and go, yeah, they're all in. It's great when you say a team's all in, but does it result in a team that can win it all?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, look, we'll put the center logjam over to the side and we'll assume that it will iron itself out some way, somehow. But however it works, the main core of KD and Alperen Şengün and Fred VanVleet, and then Ahmed Thompson, who I'm a massive fan of, who I think has all NBA potential, already made all defense. Jabari Smith, they just extended him 5 for 122. This is a young Tari East. The bench is loaded. We didn't even get Sam and I sometimes talk about justice for Reed Sheppard, who we think will be a really good player. And one day, Akeem, asked Sam about his wild Reed Sheppard take. But the whole point here is Oklahoma City, we just saw what happened with them. They have the MVP and SGA, and they had Jalen Williams really step forward, making his first All-NBA team. But they are really deep, maybe the deepest team in the NBA, right? Well, what they're building in Houston, or what they've built in Houston, I think is every bit as deep. And will it work? I think, how could it not? Like, you unplug Jalen Green, who can be a bucket, but was also hyper inconsistent, and Dylan Brooks, who, you know, he likes to get after people and he can be a nudge and all that stuff. You take those two guys aside and you replace it with KD and Dorian Finney-Smith. Man, they are absolutely loaded. And I've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. Their main problem last year, to the extent that they had one when you're the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, was they had no closers. So frequently, they just had a whole group of guys who on any given night could be really good for you, right? But late in games, when it got tough in crunch time, they'd kind of look around at each other and go, oh, wait, who's Whose ball is this tonight? Well, now you got KD. At the very least, you can always default to that position. Man, I love Houston.
Tim, is that a team right there? You look at that starting five, you go, yep, they're going to win it all.
Yeah,
You're that confident in that starting five right there.
That's the best team in the NBA in my eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great series with OKC. Right when I saw they made the move for Durant, because there was a lot of speculation on where he was going to go. And of all the teams, I said if he had his choice, the best squad for him to go to would be Houston, because they can defend, they're young, they're athletic, and they need exactly what he could do, still finish out games. I called some of their games last year in the play-in tournament, and they had a tough time scoring when it mattered. And those were like playoff-like atmosphere. Same thing happened when they got to the playoffs against the Warriors. Tough time scoring, especially in the half court. Now you add one of the greatest scorers of all time. I love this roster. This is my pick to win the NBA championship. As far as this move, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. That's what John and Sam say. I kind of agree with them. I would rather have Clint Capela than Steven Adams if I was choosing between those two.
All right, again, a 3-year, $21.5 million deal for Clint Capela. Houston all in.